Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest Artillery Workshop, our series of on-demand presentations adapted from different presentations we've given at industry events. I'm Mike Bolin, Chief Analyst of Artillery, and today we have a presentation that is adapted from a recent client strategy session in which we were going over a number of different factors and trends that are impacting business today. This presentation extracts and adapts the parts about augmented reality for Artillery subscribers. It handles Artillery's kind of state of the union, told through the lens of what a lot of tech giants are doing lately to kind of tackle AR as an opportunity. So here's the presentation. Please enjoy. So first, to kind of level set, we're hearing a lot these days about things like virtual reality and augmented reality. Today, I'm really going to focus more on the latter. Virtual reality, of course, is highly immersive experiences that are popular in early stages with things like video games. Augmented reality, on the other hand, is a graphical overlay on one's field of vision and has a lot more applicability to local media, as we'll go over. So in terms of their market sizes, just to kind of put things into perspective, here's some data from a firm called DigiCapital. I firmly believe that these absolute figures are a bit inflated in terms of the timeline to 2020. But what I do agree with here is the relative sizes of these markets and the delta you see between AR and VR. Now, AR, as you can tell, is about 3x the size of VR in terms of its projected market size by 2020. And the reason for that is I believe it's going to have a lot more applicability to more commercial areas, such as manufacturing, such as healthcare, and particularly commerce, local commerce and retail, in terms of graphical overlays that inform consumers about their surroundings for kind of nearby commerce. And I'll go over some details, but another kind of reason why this is going to be bigger is, as an analyst, I'm always looking at a metric that I call share of media time per day. So we all spend our day with media, and that's subdivided by competing media such as radio and television and online and mobile and print and all of these things. On that measure, the eventual vision for AR is that it will have a potential to occupy a larger share of our media time per day because it can conceivably be worn at more waking hours because it's less immersive and we can still kind of see the world around us with these overlays. Whereas virtual reality, due to its highly immersive state, is only really tenable to be kind of worn for a certain amount of time per day. Now, that eventual vision of kind of all-day use for AR, we're certainly not there yet. The eventual vision is kind of smart glasses that are kind of perpetually worn throughout the day. I believe that's a lot further off. We're certainly not there yet in terms of a compelling enough product that it is as a low enough price point that is mainstream friendly. And even more importantly, the cultural acclamation and adoption of this is simply not there yet. And that's something we learned from Google Glass, that it's something that was going to take a large kind of cultural acclamation to get to that point. Now, the other reason I mention that is to point out the nearer term scalable opportunity is to build on the addressable market and the installed base of hardware that we already have in the marketplace, which is the 2.6 billion smartphones already out there that are going to be the kind of the venue where augmented reality happens, and these graphical overlays to the world are going to happen. And that's because the smartphone already has the hardware components to do this. It has the camera, the viewfinder, the GPS chip, and all the makings for AR experiences. So one example of that is Pokemon Go. This, of course, was something that was very popular. It's a graphical overlay on the physical world. It was very much in kind of a game sense, but it really points the way towards some of these location-based graphics that can start to happen in a commercial sense, which I'll get into in a bit. Another thing that we've seen so far in terms of the I guess proof of concept for AR is Snapchat and the Snapchat selfie lenses, where it's very popular among millennials to kind of share selfies with these kind of admittedly silly kind of overlays. This is actually me here on the left. I sometimes will be complicit in this kind of ridiculous behavior. That's my girlfriend on the right. She's very keen on capturing me with the dog face lenses. And again, this is silly, but it's a very kind of it's a proof of concept of what we believe is coming. Now, a lot of AR purists out there that I talk to will say that this is not true AR. So, for example, you see my face there. If I were to turn my head, the dog nose does not turn also with the proper kind of dimensions. It remains that just kind of 2D overlay. But the important thing here is it doesn't matter. What matters here is that these things have acclimated the consumer public to AR-like experiences, and it's really been a proof point that it's validated AR when it really does arrive in earnest. And in the meantime, this is kind of a gateway drug for the real AR that's coming. So I really say all that to build up to the point is, what is real AR? And how is it going to be applicable to local media? So to start telling that story, the basic technology is that real AR will create, these dimensional mapping of interior spaces. So the right kind of depth, the right dimension, and the right contours of areas, and that's done through kind of area mapping through a lot of technologies that are coming out and even resident within the smartphone cameras that get a dimensionally accurate kind of mapping of some of these interior spaces. And that's something that's called SLAM, simultaneous location and area mapping. And I do not want to get too much into the weeds of the technology, the underlying technology, but I think it's important to point out, where this technology is going, based on kind of what we're going to be able to do with it with local. And the best way to tell that story is through the lens of some of the tech companies and the tech giants that are starting to roll this stuff out. So first is Facebook. So Facebook really believes that this augmented reality overlays within mobile apps is going to really boost the social engagement that they see a lot of value in, where they see a lot of user engagement and thus ad inventory. And that gets back to the kind of their core revenue model. And one of the examples is these kind of selfie lenses, similar to what I showed earlier, but done in a more sponsored or branded way. Like if you see there on the right, Nike or fitness brands can have these overlays that are naturally integrated into the fitness milestones or other things that people share with their friends when they are in these kind of social and peer-to-peer engagements. And I'm going to get into how well this type of format and use cases really resonates with millennials, and integrating marketing into that resonates with millennials. I'll get into that in a bit, but for now, it's important to see how companies like Facebook are starting to integrate these overlays, these augmented reality overlays, into the kind of social sharing of multimedia that's already very much happening with their products. A more local example that Facebook showed off during the recent F8 developer conference is the ability to leave geotagged graphical messages for your friends or colleagues in the physical world. So the example here given by Mark Zuckerberg was to leave an example, near a menu inside a restaurant that can only be seen when you hold your phone up to it. That certain messages for your friends that might be tips or reviews about kind of local commerce, whether it be food and restaurants or other things. And we believe this is kind of going to open up lots of kind of sponsored and monetizable opportunities. Now, the other just kind of quick side note, and it's interesting what Facebook has done here, is that this is a platform. So they opened up a developer kit so that third-party developers could really run with this. So we're going to see a lot of innovation and kind of decentralized production of these use cases that develop that is really going to scale far beyond what Facebook can just develop on its own. And that contrasts with Snapchat's strategy, and those are the kind of silly dog face things I was showing earlier, which only has a handful of these available lenses because that's something that they are confining to their in-house development. This platform approach, conversely, is going to result in a lot more accelerated innovation and use cases that develop. So segueing to Apple and what they're doing, they similarly launched something recently, which is very much the same in terms of their AR kit, which is analogous to the SDK that they announced 10 years ago for developers to build apps. This is a component of that that lets them build AR apps. So a similar kind of decentralized development that's going to happen. And here we have, the placement of graphical um, things that are put in the real world. And this is something that is, it's just a simple lamp, but you can see the dimensionally accurate contours of the lamp. And really, again, this is kind of a proof of concept for when this gets to more, commercially oriented and locally oriented types of things that will be placed in real settings for people to kind of share or see when they're in kind of local discovery modes. And this is very important for Apple because Apple's kind of iPhone sales are waning. This is something that they see as the next milestone in kind of the shiny new thing for this hardware. And that motivation for them to do this, I think, is going to have important implications for the market about these kind of accelerated AR use cases that will be available soon. Moving on to Amazon. Amazon's goal is to get you to buy more things. You can sense a theme here. Facebook's goal in getting into AR was to boost that use case of multimedia social sharing. Apple's goal in going into AR is to sell more iThings because that's a feature that kind of makes it more attractive. So Amazon, using AR to boost its core business to get you to buy more things, they're doing interesting things that are similar to the chair example I showed earlier, which is to essentially visualize items within your home to make a more informed purchase. And that happens in a few different ways. Here again is that chair example. So they've shown that this actually boosts conversions by allowing people to see things within their home. And not just conversions, but something that's very important for Amazon, which is to reduce returns. It's very interesting. They've started to have an app which allows you to have big bulky items that are expensive to ship, such as flat screen televisions, and have a dimensionally accurate rendition or visualization of that item within your home. And they've shown that this actually reduces the amount of returns. Amazon, as you probably know, is a company that operates with very thin margins, but at very great kind of volume and scale. So they are very obsessed with that margin and improving margins. So this kind of reduction of returns for heavy items is something that helps them achieve that goal of improving some of their margins, and it's worked very well for them so far. Google, actually, I think is the most interesting of the tech giants chasing this. So they're doing something similar to the point cloud I mentioned earlier, where it's about depth sensing within interior spaces to get kind of a 3D map. And their intention here is to do what they've done with mapping and local search in GPS in the outside world and bring that to the next horizon, which they see as the interior spaces of different kind of retail and other commercial spaces. They call this visual positioning service. And the quote from Clay Bavor, who is Google's product lead for virtual reality and augmented reality, is GPS can get you to the door, and then VPS can get you to the exact item you're looking for. What Google is doing here is they're mapping the interior spaces using this kind of depth sensing. And from that, they get all this, again, this is called a point cloud. From this, they get a very contoured 3D map of interior spaces. Now, the important part is that just lays the foundation. What comes next is essentially overlaying commercial information. And the common example here is inside these very complex retail spaces, such as Home Depot, they can start to layer in location and inventory information so you can get to your item faster. And this can do things like increase basket sizes, and it has lots of other implications for local media and commerce. So, moving on. In addition to, a graphical overlay on the physical world, another place the related technology is coming to fruition is called visual search, which is using the smartphone's camera to either snap a picture or a live video of an item and then use that to query a database using object recognition and artificial intelligence to show same or related items for purchase. And this is very important because this kind of goes along with the trend that the the smartphone and the camera are becoming the place where commerce and search is happening. And the quote from Ben Silbermann, who is Pinterest founder and CEO, is a lot of the future of search is going to be about pictures instead of keywords. This is very important for companies like Google because in the smartphone era, they've actually had a decline in search volume because on smartphones, people are using apps as opposed to using the browser where search happens. So Google is very intent on counterbalancing that decline in search volume by providing more ways for you to search. So in this case, instead of typed queries, it's using the camera. The camera, essentially, you can think of it as the new search box. It's also very similar to what they're doing in voice search by allowing people to search with their voice. And I'll get into that in the next chapter, but it's along those same lines. So, ending off on this chapter, what does it mean for local? I'm going to end all of these chapters with a what it means for local. A few things. One is, as I mentioned, a lot of these kind of visual search use cases are going to manifest in local discovery. So finding things around you. And that has lots of implications for local commerce. But more importantly, one of the things that is going to be a key part of the value chain in this actually happening is the local data, the place data, the reviews data. As you can see in this graphic, this can't happen without the information on the business, the reviews, and the other drill down information. Google has actually done this. This is a technology from Google with a combination of their place data, but also their street view data to be able to do object recognition for these types of dynamic information queries. Anyone that has value in unique data sets about local businesses is going to be a key part of this value chain. So that's it for this presentation. We hope this has been valuable. Please stay tuned for more content from ARtillry, including ARtillry workshop presentations like this, as well as a number of other different formats that will be rolling out both multimedia and written narratives. And you can find out more about that at artillery.co. This has been an ARtillry workshop. I'm Mike Boland. Thanks for watching.